Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. I'm Douglas Ducote, the sworn enemy of the left, it appears. Oh, boy. Let's see. I'm banned for life on Twitter. I'm currently in 30 days, actually 24-hour timeout on Facebook. And YouTube in the past 24 hours has removed over 400 of my subscribers by unsubscribing them, to include my own family members. And they even admit it. They sent me a message saying that we're going to be purging fake accounts on YouTube, so you will see your subscribers numbers change. Well, according to them, my family has fake accounts. Absolutely incredible BS. Censorship 101 by social media is, what are you going to do, folks? That's why we started DouglasDucote.com. If you haven't already done so, please go over to DouglasDucote.com and sign up for our email newsletter that comes out. We will have it up and running again. You can go there now and sign up, and you can see everything that's on the website. But it has not been updated recently, but it will be very, very soon as we get all that back into operation after we did a production switchover, let's say. Anyhow, today's show is about racism and the Democrat Party. To be more precise, it's about, I hate to say, I told you so, Democrats and liberals, but that's kind of what this show is about. Because if you go back and you look at my history of YouTube videos over the past several years, you will see many times where I've been preaching to people about the Democrat Party and who they really are. And one of the things that I've always talked about is how Planned Parenthood was set up on purpose to eliminate the black race by aborting black babies. And of course, the left and the Democrats always call me a racist for saying that, and anyone else that says that, for that matter. They deny it. They say that's not true. On and on. No matter how much you put facts out there to these folks, they can't seem to accept the truth. I've recently said, and I'll say it again, the Black Lives Matter movement, if it really mattered black lives to them, well, they would definitely be protesting in front of Planned Parenthoods, as well as downtown Chicago and everywhere else across America where there is this huge epidemic of black on black crime. Well, they don't, so that just proves that Black Lives Matter really doesn't matter to that organization. So let's talk a minute about Planned Parenthood. And here is the I told you so moment of everything I've been preaching about. Straight off the press, my folks, my friends, today, as a matter of fact. You can see it on the AP. You can go check it out at Fox News. You won't see it on CNN or MSNBC. Hell no, you won't see it there. But it's making its rounds. Planned Parenthood is removing the name of Margaret Sanger, the founder of the nation's largest abortion provider, due to her harmful connection to racism movement, the group said today. The announcement comes after more than 350 current and former staffers, as well as 800 donors, supporters, and volunteers, called Sanger a racist white woman. An open letter on June 18th to Planned Parenthood criticized the organization as steeped in white supremacy. And that was posted in the Washington Times. For decades, pro-life activists pointed out Sanger's racism, but in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, Planned Parenthood said today it's going to address the problem. The removal of Margaret Sanger's name from our buildings is both a necessity and overdue skip to reckon with our legacy and acknowledge Planned Parenthood's contributions to historical reproductive harm within communities of color, said Karen Seltzler, the chair of Planned Parenthood. Here they are, finally admitting what I've been saying over and over and over again, and many other conservatives and many other Republicans, that it was built by Democrats to eliminate the African American race. And even to this day, that's what their sole purpose is, period. Yes, will they abort a white baby? Sure will, or any other for that matter. But which do they abort the most? Well, it's the black race. But let's go on. Planned Parenthood is now asking city leaders to remove Sanger's name from local streets as well. Planned Parenthood Federation of America, the national organization, said it supports the decision. Planned Parenthood, like many other organizations that have existed for centuries or more, is reckoning with our history and working to address historical inequalities to better serve patients and our mission, Melody Roswell Newman, a spokesman for the group, said in a statement. The national organization has defended Sanger in the past, claiming she was well-intentioned in her outreach to Black communities. Well, she was well-intentioned, all right. Her intentions were to kill Black babies. Sanger launched the Negro Project in 1939, which is aimed at helping Negroes to control their birth rate, while advocating for a federal population bureau to police reproduction. She worked with Black leaders like Webb Du Bois and Mary McLeod Bethune, but also addressed the women's auxiliary of the KKK. Planned Parenthood stated it strongly disagrees with Sanger's decision to speak to an organization that spreads hatred. The National Planned Parenthood group also criticized Sanger's support for policies to sterilize people with disabilities and those that could not be treated, and for placing so-called illiterates, paupers, unemployable criminals, prostitutes, and dope fiends on farms in an open space as long as necessary to strengthen and develop a moral conduct, the group said in a 2016 fact sheet. Reverend Dean Nelson, the executive director of Human Coalition Action and an African-American minister, in a statement that the decision is long overdue and said more action is needed. You cannot acknowledge the racist person in history without admitting to the racist vision, and that has resulted in nearly 80% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities being located where? Within walking distance of Black neighborhoods all across America. Why do you think they put them there? Well, now you know. This is the fulfillment of Margaret Sanger's vision. It is inconceivable that the taxes of Americans go to an organization with racist founding and mission. There's no redeeming Planned Parenthood tainted organs and current day racist practices, and I call on Congress to fully defund Planned Parenthood. The decision also comes as Anti-Abortion Students for Life of America organized. It's launching an SOS Strike Out Sanger campaign Tuesday, calling for the removal of Sanger statues and symbols wherever they are in America. Margaret Sanger's racist legacy continues to be a work in America as seen in Planned Parenthood's business model. Students for Life of America, President Christian Hawkes said in a statement, but rather in the Smithsonian, Manhattan, or the Old South Meeting House on the Freedom's Trail, Margaret Sanger's tributes need to be taken down and stored away because her desire to ensure that Black babies would not be born doesn't deserve to be honored. SBA list President Margie Dampsfield took it a step further, calling on Planned Parenthood to immediately publish its historical abortion data by race, giving indications they have skewed the placement of abortion facilities and actively targeted minorities communities, and drop its fierce opposition to anti-discrimination laws that protect unborn children from being selected for abortion due to their race, sex, or disability. Davenport added, we further call on Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton to devour and return their Planned Parenthood Margaret Sanger awards immediately. Well, Democrats, liberals, all of you that have been saying for quite some time, you can just go look at the comments on my videos in the past about this subject, saying that I was wrong, saying that Planned Parenthood was not designed to get rid of Black babies and that Margaret Sanger was this wonderful person. Well, guess what? Planned Parenthood has finally admitted what their entire reason of existence was and still is as I speak right this moment, to eliminate the Black race. So when Black Lives Matter and Antifa want to start going to Planned Parenthoods and protesting and then going into the inner cities where all these Planned Parenthood abortion clinics are located in places of violent Black-on-Black crime like Chicago, then maybe you get people like me to at least listen to what you have to say. In the meantime, we don't give two shits. So, while we're on the subject of the Democrat Party, let's continue, shall we? Democrat Party was founded 1828 by supporters of Andrew Jackson, making it the world's oldest active political party. And we know that. That's factual information. The party supported limited government, state sovereignties, and slavery. I'll repeat that. They supported slavery in 1828 and July 21st, 2020. Nothing's changed, my friends. Wake the hell up, Democrats and liberals. While Thomas Jefferson, the founder of what evolved into the Democrat Party, had argued that slavery was bad, not only for the slaves, but also for the slave owner, John C. Calhoun had turned his principle on its head. Slavery was good, not only for the slaveholder, but also for the slaves. It was good, he said. Fundamental enterprise was to defend the institution of slavery. To do so, he first had to overturn the principles of the American founding. He started with the Declaration of Independence. You all know what that is, right? And what does it say? He argued that the position all men are created equal, is now understood, has become the most false and dangerous of all principal errors. We now begin to experience the danger of admitting so great an error to have a place in the Declaration of Independence, he said, as he transformed the Democrat Party of Jefferson into the party of slavery. Then the Democrat Party imposed Jim Crow laws, including the poll taxes and of lynching, The Democrat Party's war against African Americans continued after the Civil War. Democrats, both North and South, fought the attempt to implement the equality of African Americans gained as such a high cost. This opposition was often violent. Indeed, the KKK operated as a de facto terrorist arm of the National Democrat Party Reconstruction. Democrats defeated the Reconstruction in the end, and on its ruins created Jim Crow. Democrat liberalism did not extend to issue of race. Woodrow Wilson was the questionable liberal racist, a species of Democrat that later included the likes of William Fairburn of Arkansas, Sam Erwin of North Carolina, and Albert Gore, who also had a father or had a son, father called Al from Tennessee. In the 1920s, the Republican Party platform routinely called for anti-lynching legislation. The Democrats rejected such calls in their own platforms. Then the Democrat Party fought to keep segregation, separate but equal laws, and against the civil rights laws, even the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which supposedly established the Democrats' bona fide of race, was passed in spite of the Democrats rather than because of them. Republican Senate Minority Leader Everett Dixon pushed the bill through the Senate despite the no votes of 21 Democrats, including Gore Sr. and Robert Byrd, who was what? One of the founding fathers of the KKK, who is mentioned where? In Hillary Clinton's biography as a leader that she looked up to. In contrast, only 4 Republicans opposed the bill, mostly like Barry Goldwater, on libertarian principles, not segregationist ones. The Democrat Party stands on education, is pro-union, and anti-choice, deliberately hurting blacks, taking the issue on education. The single biggest obstacle to the achievement of true equality in the United States is not poverty, but education. If Democrats sincerely wish to help the minority children on whose behalf they claim to labor, they would embrace school choice to help such children escape the traps of substandard schools. And oh, by the way, Democrats, the guy that you're putting up against Trump in November, Joe Biden, why don't you do your research on how he feels about segregation and school choice? This is from the Wall Street Journal. It recounts the real history of the Democrat Party that the modern Democrats of today leave out and do not want you to know. And I refer you to the Wall Street Journal for your proof of what I'm about to read. There is no reference to the number of Democrat platforms supporting slavery. There were 6 from 1840 to 1860. There is no reference of the number of Democrat presidents who owned slaves. There were 7 from 1800 to 1861. There is no reference to the number of Democrat Party platforms that either supported segregation outright or were silent on the subject. There were 20 from 1868 to 1948. There is no reference to Jim Crow, as in Jim Crow laws, nor is there reference to the role Democrats played in creating them. There were the post-Civil War laws passed enthusiastically by Democrats in the pesky 52-year part of the DNC's missing years. These laws segregated public schools, public transportation, restaurants, restrooms, and public places in general, everywhere from water coolers to beaches. The reason Rosa Parks became famous is that she sat in the whites-only front section of the bus. the whites only designated the direct result of Democrats. There is no reference to the formation of the KKK, which, according to Columbia University historian Eric Foner, became a military force serving the interests of the Democrat Party. Nor is there reference to University of North Carolina historian Alan Tersley's description of the Klan as the terrorist arm of the Democrat Party. In short, the Democrat Party was since 1840, the party of slavery, the party of racism, the anti-Jim Crow laws, separation but equal laws, segregation, affirmative action, anti-civil rights, and the murder of black babies, thanks to Democrat Margaret Sanger and her founding Planned Parenthood. What does it take? I ask you, because I literally don't know. What does it take to get, if nothing else, black people to not vote Democrat? If you're able to go vote and you're registered to vote, chances are, no matter how bad your living conditions are, you have access to the damn internet. And if you don't, you can go down to the library. They still have those, by the way. And you can see the history of the Democrat Party. It's right there for the world to see. All the things that I've talked about in past videos about Planned Parenthood and was called out by the left of the Democrats as a racist bigot, whitehead, skinhead, Aryan Brotherhood, all the horrible things. Planned Parenthood has finally admitted today. How many black Americans are going to change their vote now? How many are going to go, holy shit? We're funding these people to murder our race. Is it going to change any? You know, if somebody came to me and was able to prove to me something that goes against, I don't care if it's the Republican Party or conservatives, and prove to me that I'm wrong and the factual information is backed up by historians or science, and that has happened, by the way, in the past on certain issues, then I look at it differently. Who wouldn't? Democrats. That's who wouldn't. Far left liberals. Those white kids out there burning down Seattle and Portland and Atlanta. The youth of today has absolutely no clue about the history of the Democrat Party. As long as the Republican Party has been in existence, since Planned Parenthood came into existence, the Republicans have tried to defund that organization once Congress passed to fund them. And they're always unable to do so because of the Democrats. Or a few Republicans that jump ship and vote with the Democrats because, they're racist too. This is not nuclear science that I'm explaining here. It is fact-based evidence that a vote for the Democrat Party, until they stand up and are willing to admit what we already know via history, is a vote against the black race, period. There's no other way of putting it. Now, what happens to people like me that go out and try and spread the truth? You know, there's going to be people that are going to come after me and slam me for telling you what you can go talk to Planned Parenthood about that they came out and addressed today. And they're going to say, oh, well, that's not true. That person doesn't know what they're talking about. Hell, it's Planned Parenthood telling you, yes, we're racist. Yes, our founder wanted to kill black babies. Yes, we put our abortion clinics in low poverty black neighborhoods. Yes, we kill more black babies than anyone else. Yes, Black Lives Matter doesn't give a shit about us because they don't believe it's true. And then when black people do come over to the Republican side, what happens to them? They're chastised. They're slandered. All types of horrible things are said about them. They're Uncle Toms. You name it. It's horrible. It's disgusting. When a black person can't stand up and say, this is wrong. And then you look at some of the black leadership. Hell, take the Black Caucus for that matter. Maxine Waters. That whole group, folks. Why? Why? Why is Maxine Waters, not that I want her to switch parties. I don't want, she'd come out tomorrow and say, I've switched parties, I'm a Republican now. I don't want nothing to do with that woman because of her hatred. But how is she able, as a woman of color, that actually experienced firsthand knowledge in person what the Democrat Party was doing to black people? How is it possible she's a freaking Democrat? Or any of them for that matter. Pick one. Even the current ones. Cory Booker. Kamala Harris. How? Are you that stupid that you don't pay attention to American history? If you're going to go into politics, I don't give two shits what party you want to go into. Libertarian, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. At least educate yourself on the party that you want to side with. And if you can't do that, if you can't do that basic thing called education, freaking don't do it, because you look like an idiot to the rest of the world. For a black person to become a member of Congress in the Democrat Party and support this shit and say it doesn't exist or turn a blind eye, especially the older ones that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, that experienced it, that experienced not being able to drink out of a water fountain that said whites only on it, that experienced having to sit in the back of the bus, that experienced the KKK burning crosses in their yards and lynchings, that experienced going to separate schools, not the white schools. The majority of the members of Congress that are black on the Democrat Party experience that shit firsthand, and they're Democrats. I mean, you can't make this shit up if you tried. It's sad. You know, I don't know why they do it. The whole purpose of the Republican Party was to defeat slavery. That's facts. And the liberals and Democrats try and say it's not because they don't think you're smart enough to look it up yourself. And sadly, they're correct about their base. Their base aren't smart enough to fact check them. Anyhow, I want to add a few things to tonight's discussion, tonight's show. We have movement in, let's just say, in law enforcement's investigation into some of the things that I've been experiencing. For those of you that aren't aware, a lot of not just attacks on social media, but attacks in person against me and my family for doing this show and for putting out videos. And I will leave it at that. Things are moving along. Slow because of coronavirus, especially in the court system. Things aren't going to move as fast as I'd hoped they would, but they're moving. The other thing is that here in the South, where I'm at in Louisiana, we have a tropical system that is moving into the Gulf of Mexico over the next 48 hours that could very well turn into a hurricane. It is kind of angled at the moment, heading towards like Houston, Texas landfall area, which the right side is the worst part of hurricanes, and that will take Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Florida along the Gulf Coast. And that's where the most damage will be done. Depending on how strong this thing becomes, it could really, really be bad. And directly behind it is another system that is expected to become a hurricane before it even gets to the Gulf. And it's on the exact same track. So if you live in the South along the Gulf Coast, pay attention to that. Heed the warning to get out of your homes if you're in low-lying areas, especially down in New Orleans. Even where I'm located at, depending on the category, we would relocate north until it gets over and through with, because that's not something to mess with. I've lived through several of them throughout my life. And, you don't want to play with Mother Nature. And a lot of people do. And sadly, they lose their life because of it. So keep all those in the South in your thoughts and prayers as this hurricane season is starting to increase drastically. And with everything else we got going on, with all the lockdowns because of COVID-19, regardless of what you believe in or don't believe in it, I mean, at this point, I don't even know what the truth is anymore. When COVID-19 first kicked off, I was trying to get all the right information and talking to doctors and talking to people in the medical community, and everybody had one set of things, and I'd put that out, and within literally weeks, that would change, and they would go, "We got that wrong, and now we're looking at this," and it would change to that, and it's just, I don't know anymore. I literally, and nobody does, The administration isn't on the same sheet of music. The medical community is not on the same sheet of music. State government's not on the same sheet of music as federal government, as other state governments. I mean, everybody's doing their own damn thing, coming up with their own facts. It is absolutely, it will go down in history as the dumbest thing probably to ever happen in America as far as how we reacted to this pandemic. The numbers are all screwed up. Nobody knows anymore what's reality and what isn't. And I never thought in America I would see something so literally turned upside down and just a debacle on a level that's, I'm sure, comical to other people in other countries that are looking at us going, damn. If you go to Louisiana, there's one set of rules. If you go to Florida, there's another set of rules. If you go to Texas, there's another set of rules. And then, oh, if you go to anywhere that's run by a Democrat mayor or a Democrat governor, you're on lockdown. COVID-19 is going to kill you. We're all going to die. Unless you're Black Lives Matter or Antifa and you want to protest. Then that's okay. COVID-19 doesn't affect them. It just affects you. You can't go out and do anything. I mean, literally, the mayor of New York said everybody must follow the restrictions that he put in place for COVID-19, except the exception, this is out of his own mouth, was Black Lives Matter protests. Well, maybe that's because he's a Democrat, and what's this show been about? Explaining to you how the Democrats don't give a damn about Black lives. That's my only guess. And nobody sees that? Why is it okay for Black Lives Matter protesters? And yes, a lot of them are white people standing up for Black lives. Why is it okay for them to go out and protest in New York, in Memphis, in Atlanta, and Seattle, and Portland, and Oakland, Philadelphia, Detroit, but no one else can be out enjoying their life? Do you see where I'm getting with this? Do you see there's a problem? And yet, no matter how much I expose it, or other conservatives or Republicans on YouTube and the news media expose it, we still have people not in mass droves, not walking, but running away from the Democrat Party as they should. You know, the whole thing with Hillary Clinton and Congressman Byrd, I mean, that in itself is beyond belief. That this woman admits to he as being her, the person she looked up to, a racist founder of the KKK, right out of Hillary Clinton's own mouth. Right there in her biography. And Democrats are upset she lost. Are you kidding me? Anyhow, folks, it's crazy. We're in times, you know, I'm 58. I've never seen anything like this. The 2020 is hands down the worst year for America that I've ever witnessed, that affects all of us, no matter your political party. But the closer we get to the election, sadly, the worse things are going to get. And I do believe that Trump's going to run away with this and he's going to win. But watch what happens when he does. If you don't own a gun and know how to use it to protect yourself and your family, then you better wake the hell up because I'm telling you, it's going to get ugly on election night. I think regardless if he wins or loses, these radicals are going to lose their shit. And who's it going to affect? That's right, me and you. Prepare yourself. Be ready for what's coming in a very few short months. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our brave men and women in law enforcement out there doing their damnness to fight this horrible, destructive part of our society at the moment. Our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our president, and our country. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed night. Please remember to tune in Thursday at 8 p.m. We do the show Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central Time. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll be seeing you soon.